Making a career in music is both amazing and terrifying at the same time. If you try to make it as a musician, I wish you the best of luck and may God have mercy on your soul. Between myself being a performer and running a company in the entertainment industry, I've experienced firsthand the struggles both financially and mentally that go into chasing that dream. The reality is there are other opportunities to establish a career, whether you're a booking agent, stagehand, or box office attendant. There's plenty of roles in the industry where you can still be part of the show and have a healthy career balance. The reason why I'm sharing my experience is because our guest today and I both have worked for the same company. MOKB Presents, a live event production company based in Indianapolis, was my first graphic design internship that helped me shape everything that I do today with 45 Creations. Working in the office helped me network and make connections with other designers, booking agents, and production managers that I still have relationships with to this day. Although our guest started working for the company years after I left, I can tell that she still has the same drive and spirit that all the great people before her possessed in the day-to-day operations of the shows. She's a true music fan and might hold the all-time record for most of concerts attended in the United States. This episode of Stay Risky was recorded and brought to you by Engine Room Recording Company. Outside with everybody else. All right, on this episode of Stay Risky, we have Dee. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Having a good day?
Yeah.
A very stress-free, no chaotic, no nothing going wrong today?
There's always something. So, we have our usual, last minute things that we just react to as we need to.
Is it a show at any venue if there's not at least one thing that just goes wrong entirely throughout the day?
I don't think it's possible.
Yeah, it always happens.
There's always something, but we just deal with it.
Well, cool. Well, for anyone that doesn't know you, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at MOKB Presents and just kind of your background.
Yep. So I'm Dee Annis. My official title is Associate Talent Buyer. I've been with MOKB for almost 5 years. Started out as just an assistant to the owner and have kind of grown my role as needed. I work on booking shows. I help with all the ticket links and getting everything put on sale. And I just generally keep all of the information correct in all the places so that we don't have mismatches on like door times or show times, things like that.
Keeping everybody's heads on their shoulders so they don't fall off.
As much as we can.
So you said 5 years. So what are we, 24? So is it 2019?
Yeah, March of 2019 is when I started.
Because I was doing like backwards math and I was like, well, I left in 2018. So you must have came in like right after I had left.
Yeah, not long after.
Yeah, because I think it was Spencer Hooks.
Yep.
I don't know how long he stayed after I left, but he was the booking agent for a while and then he went to Nashville.
Yes.
So that's awesome though. So you've been there for quite some time and you've gotten to see, and I know that Josh has been expanding MOKB ever since he's ever started it. And he basically like owns the entire strip now, doesn't he?
We lease quite a bit of space in the Murphy building. Yes.
Because you guys have hi-fi, lo-fi.
Yes.
Annex outside back. Which that was a product of the pandemic.
Exactly.
Pure used to be right next to this restaurant, or it used to be the restaurant right next to the hi-fi now. And what was it called again?
It's called Easy Rider Diner.
Easy Rider Diner.
Yep.
And you guys own that as well now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of Easy Rider is where the Heartland studio or Heartland film office used to be, and that's now our office. So we have like those 3 spaces in a row plus lo-fi upstairs, and then our old office upstairs is green room.
Yeah, I saw that's awesome. Like that's it, because I remember JD Iker came through for the lo-fi.
Yeah, it's pretty baller now.
It's really nice. Yeah, I was like man, because like when I was in a rock band when I was working at the hi-fi, we played we did like a Thursday or Friday night, and the green room is really cool in the hi-fi, the room that has the guitar with all the stuff.
Yeah,
but I remember it was like like a nice room, and then you got like a little TV you can play NES games on.
Yeah.
And then when JD played the lo-fi, I was like, oh, he's got like the presidential suite up here. Like he's got
there's a lot of room upstairs now, but it helps now that we have like all the different spaces, and like in the summer when we have the annex going, we could have between upstairs and downstairs like anywhere up to like 6 bands that we can now accommodate them all at once.
Well, yeah, and you guys run multiple shows at the same. Like you'll run the hi-fi and the lo-fi, and then also, I know First Fridays the whole like upper floor opens with the pinball arcade and Music Family Tree. Is Music Family Tree still there?
No.
No. Okay.
Mm-mm. But I mean, artists will be set up in the hallways displaying their art, and we're getting back into doing the First Friday shows.
Oh, did you guys take a break for a little bit, or?
We did last month and this month, and so I think we'll be back to it in March.
I gotcha.
I don't remember off the top of my head what our calendar is.
It is also like I've always thought it was just like ironic that the hi-fi is downstairs and the lo-fi is upstairs.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's more based on the size versus the actual geographical location.
Right, of course, yeah. But the lo-fi is cool because you get that smaller, more intimate singer-songwriter. Because I mean, like the hi-fi is an amazing venue. I personally think even before I started working there, like it's like the best mid-sized venue in the state.
Yeah, I'm super biased, but I think it's one of the best, just all around, from the sound and the shows that we get and the people who run it. And I believe that even before I worked there, and I believe it even more now.
Yeah, because it used to be like a shotgun alley. So before you started working there, how long had you been going to see hi-fi shows?
Oh, since the beginning.
When they were like the shotgun alley.
Yeah, even like I call it the half-fi.
The half-fi.
So like back when it was half the size, 200 cap, and it went to the pole, and now there's a pole in the middle of the room was the old dividing point, and then they moved the bar to the other side, and now it's 400 cap.
Nice.
So, but yeah, like I have Facebook memories that come up from way back, even like from like I want to say 2014, 2015. Actually, this May we will be celebrating the 10-year anniversary
of the new
of the hi-fi.
Oh, in general.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Cool.
So it's been around almost 10 years already.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and it's I mean I got to see, firsthand the whole operation. I got to watch, like I get to go down to the meetings and see them talk about like how they're going to orient the shows and all that. I mean, it's a really well-oiled machine. There's a reason why it's getting the shows that it does, but obviously with the pandemic that's the whole reason why like I had to put our company on the back burner and then bring it back up when it was the right time. But you guys pivoted into the annex. That was pretty cool. So kind of tell us a little bit about how that came about.
Yeah. So as you know, when the pandemic hit and everything shut down, nobody wanted to be or could be inside. So Josh and our team created the annex, which was an outdoor venue that we could have, a very limited number of people, but at least we could start doing shows again outside in a safe manner. But also, I think also everybody was kind of sick of just being inside in their houses. So it was also
the live stream concerts from home.
Yeah. Like it was just a nice opportunity to do something where bands could actually do shows again, and then also be outside and do it in a safe manner. So we created a venue out of shipping containers.
I was gonna say I thought that was the coolest thing. It was just like they just cut a hole out of the middle.
Yep.
And then at the end, did you guys donate it or scrap it, or?
We actually took from the very first year, that shipping container is now our main bar container.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Nice.
And then in subsequent years, we've gotten an actual stage, like a real stage.
Because now it's like the big kind of almost like a little amphitheater type stage.
So like a festival stage or whatever that like we can put up and leave out for the season. So
nice.
Yeah, so and then we have other shipping containers that kind of line the perimeter of the space. So yeah, we just got approval for it again for next year, so it's coming back.
Yeah, so you have to like like noise ordinance, and you have to like kind of just do all the city's rules.
Yeah, there's like I want to say 10 p.m. noise curfew.
Yeah.
So
for Fountain Square specifically, or
I don't know if it's just for the neighborhood or if it's for the entire city or what.
I think like TCU's like 11, or Ruoff was like that's also Noblesville, so that's different. But I think it could 11.
It could be dependent on the neighborhood and like the residential makeup of the. Yeah, so I guess there's not that much residential right around where the lawn is.
Gotcha. So before the hi-fi, what were you doing work-wise?
So actually, I started out, I moved here because I got a job with Lily,
Oh, nice.
out in Greenfield at Lenco, the animal health division. And so I was there for a long time.
Very rock and roll.
Oh, totally. I started out as a chemist and then kind of meandered my way through a bunch of different careers there. Had a stint in HR doing recruiting. So like just a circuitous route. But I have always loved live music and went to a lot of shows at the Hi-Fi. And I think there was one time even I was going for a stretch and one of the door guys like asked me like, "Do you work here?" I'm like, "No, I'm just always here."
Big fan.
Yeah. Which made me laugh. And this was like back when it was still like half the size. So this is like still a long time ago. So I got laid off from that job in 2017 and kind of was a little aimless for a bit. And then I interviewed for a job in 2018, but it wasn't really up my alley. I think it was a marketing job. But then later, Josh followed up and was like, "Do you still need a job? We're looking for somebody." And
so you developed like a good relationship with him.
I already kind of knew everybody who worked there just from going there all the time.
It's D.
Yeah,
here.
So they kind of, but that initial interview was good because it kind of got him in my skill set and resume in front of him before he really needed what I actually could do. So so then in March, I hired on March 2019, and I think there were some concerns that they would be cannibalizing one of their best customers. But
I think then you're seeing the business side.
No, because then now I'm not buying tickets.
That's true. Yeah, you get the free perks going to the show. Yeah,
yes, but they got the benefit of my skill set instead.
But wouldn't you want like your biggest fan to promote the shows and like help put them together? Like, because then like the room, the crowd, know what people are going to want to see, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's not what I started out doing, but like as I was learning the business and picked up a lot of things pretty quickly, I was able to grow my role. And, we're a small independently owned company. So it's one of those things, how it is where people just kind of do all the things, even if it's not really in your job description. So I also have the joy of doing a lot of IT things when we have our offsite. I'm like the IT girl when we're doing offsite events. So like when we have shows up at Nickel Plate or when we do Indie Pride, I help with all of the iPads that run our bars, making sure that Square is functioning so that we can sell people drinks. So
yeah, I remember
that.
Oh, sorry. I would say I remember like when I was working there, it wasn't just that I made posters for the Hi-Fi. It was the Mac Fest, and then there was Pride, and they were like, "Hey, if you want to make $15 an hour for 13 hours working this VIP booth, we got this opportunity." So that's the cool thing that I think Josh has done for a lot of people in the city is help them get their start. And even if someone doesn't stay with the Hi-Fi, they usually go to Live Nation or they end up working in the industry. At least they got their start, being that intern at MOKB. Because like when you're first starting out, obviously you're going to start at a lower role, work your way up. But as long as you start and you do something, I mean, you could end up being head of production or head of whatever you want to do or whatever position opens up.
Yeah, we've had quite a few people who started as interns with us and then have worked their way up into other roles. Like, for instance, Maria, our marketing director, was an intern. And look at her now.
Yep.
So we have several people over the years. Not everybody is still with us, but like quite a few have started as interns, stayed quite a while, and grown into other things and are off doing bigger and better things based on their knowledge that they've gained with us. So
I asked Andrea this from the Hoosier Dome because it's a similar question that I'm curious of what your answer is. So I'm in a band and I've played the Hi-Fi in a different band, but the new one we're now working on, it's a metal band. We're looking at putting some shows together. There's a band from out of state that they say that every time they route a tour, they always skip Indiana because since they don't have an in to get in here, it's hard for these out-of-state bands. They say Ohio, they have no problem. Michigan, they have no problem. But for whatever reason, Indiana, which is funny because it's such a central point to the entire Midwest, there's like this weird, and I don't think it's true. Like there's this weird stigma of these outside bands like, well, I can't get in because I don't know the promoter, and they never get back to me. I guess what's your guys' experience? Because you guys route everything from local shows to, big headlining acts that come through. Like what do you think that is, that the state of Indiana, for whatever reason, is a little bit more closed off? Or maybe that's not true.
I would say it's not true as like a blanket statement either way. I mean, there are a lot of bands that might be emailing me and I just don't see it because
Or you don't have the time to read all of them.
I do
tough.
have a secret folder that I don't always check because it's kind of what I consider to be some of the like unsolicited emails.
Sure.
And I tend to, the emails where they're kind of vetted or referred to us by somebody else tend to have a better success rate. I'll put it that way.
Through like a manager or a
even if it's
team.
like, we have some local bands that'll refer, like give my email to somebody else, like, hey, so-and-so that I know locally gave me your email and we're coming through, and those tend to get a little bit better response rate, I would say.
Well, then you've already kind of like taken those steps to know if they've put in the time, or they at least have their stuff
like
together.
I know if this local artist who I respect has deemed this band worthy of getting my email, then I tend to give it a little more credence than random email where it's random band. It's like, hey, we're so-and-so from such and such place, and we're going to be coming through Indiana like in 3 weeks, and are you available? We're like, hey, we're not available until
4 to 6 months at least, usually.
Yeah, we're like, we don't have any weekends available until like July.
Yeah.
It's pretty, I mean, I have to give it to the booking agents. They're on top of their stuff because like we are booked out pretty fast. Like we have like, I think 2 dates that aren't booked in April.
Yeah.
And it's just mainly just because they're a Monday, and it's like
tough
our staff needs a break.
Right.
Like we can't be booked like every single day. I mean, we could, but we shouldn't.
Yeah, the folks that work the hi-fi shows, I mean, I see them everywhere, anywhere. Like I'll go film a show Friday night, then I'll go film a band in a studio, and like Wesley was like, I think one night Wesley was running a show at Hi-Fi, and I saw him the next morning at a different shoot at like a different studio, and he's like and then he's at like Old National the next night. It's like all these sound engineers and production people, they're always working all the time.
Yeah, I mean, sound techs, if you're a good sound tech, you are in high demand just because there's not, I feel like there's just the pool of good reliable ones are, I guess maybe there's a lot of them, but they're not all reliable or something. So, the ones that are worth having, we like really want to.
Well, it's the nature of the field.
And everybody wants the same ones. So
right.
It's kind of a self-calling.
But you guys, I mean, like at the Hi-Fi, I mean, you guys have amazing sound and tech. And like, obviously you want to have a good sound engineer, but you also have such good setup that even if someone's like kind of knows what they're doing.
Yeah, there was a lot of care that Josh put into the design of the club, especially when they, like, even when they first were built and then when it was expanded, like, you may not have ever looked up, but there's like sound panels all across the ceiling, and then there's the anechoic back wall. The back wall from the anechoic chamber that like absorbs all the sound, and that's one of the big things that contributes to like the great sound that everybody talks about at the Hi-Fi. Which, I mean, I'm not a technical sound person, so I don't really know, but you just know, you go there and it sounds good.
It is such a steep rabbit hole with that type of stuff. Like I enjoy like tech and the music side of it. And like I've always any room where we sit in, like I always start to look at the panels and how things are, but like I don't know the science behind it. But anytime, like my home studio, we had to set it up with like a cloud above and all that. And I was watching these videos like, well, you need to measure the angle, and I think at the end of the day, it's just as long as you got enough treatment, you should be fine.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess there is a certain science to like not just having the sound absorbing panels, but like kind of where you put them. I guess it does make a difference. Well, I guess there is a way to put it in the wrong place, but I don't know what that is.
If you have too many of them, it sounds like you're in like like it sucks all the audio out because you want to have some life to it. You don't want to have it to be just super like clinical and just
Yeah.
But we were talking about a little bit before that now hi-fi can accept all ages, which is awesome. How long has that
Yes.
been?
So when we opened Easy Rider, they cut a doorway between the restaurant and the club since they're adjoining spaces, and something about the way that the Indiana liquor laws are that then made it available that we could do that we weren't limited to 21 plus shows in the hi-fi anymore. So we started out a little conservatively and made most shows 18 plus, and most shows are still 18 plus in the hi-fi.
Sure.
But on a case-by-case basis, we can do all ages. And then outside in the annex has always been all ages as
Because
well.
open air and
I don't understand what the difference was, but
it's a roof
from
versus the sky.
From the get-go, it was always all ages. I guess maybe because it is an outdoor thing.
It's indoors dark, you can kind of hide it a little bit better.
I have no idea. And then, but then, because it's not contiguous to our spaces, lo-fi is still 21 plus.
Gotcha.
So it gets confusing for people. Like, what do I? It's like just always bring an ID because even if it is an 18 plus show, you still need to show an ID to get in, I guess. So there've been like 40-year-olds who got turned away and they were mad, like, what do you mean? You have to show ID. So
I feel like it's kind of wild if you don't have an ID on you at all. Like
just
something.
I don't understand either, but like I just always have my ID, and bank card, but whatever. So
well, some people just don't have they don't feel the need for it for whatever reason.
There's a certain amount of common sense that seems to be lacking in the world, but
it's not too common anymore, is it?
Sense is not so common. Yeah.
We're gonna take a quick little break here, but when we come back, I do want to come back to email etiquette though for like bands. Like if a band is new and they're trying to put out a good impression, get booked, kind of talk about like the process of doing that. But we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. This episode's Trailblazer shout out goes to Tonic Ball. Tonic Ball brings together Indy's best bands and musicians on the Friday before Thanksgiving for an annual music festival at venues in Indy's Fountain Square neighborhood in support of Second Helpings, a central Indiana nonprofit fighting hunger from all angles. Since its inception in 2002, Tonic Ball has served as a launch pad for a supergroup, encouraged countless unique collaborations, and inspired at least one marriage. Musicians donate their time and talent, so every Tonic Ball ticket supports Second Helping's food rescue, hunger relief, and culinary job training programs. Your Tonic Ball ticket helps more than 100 Central Indiana nonprofits who receive more than 1 million free meals from Second Helpings throughout the year. So grab a ticket and do it quickly because Tonic Ball sells out long before soundcheck. If you'd like to attend or find ways to support this amazing event, head to tonicball.org to learn more. All right, we're back. So we left off at the point of email etiquette. So I feel like it is important because, like, when a band reaches out, there's a certain way, like, and also a certain amount of times. Like, you don't want to bombard someone, but also, like, booking agents get busy and things get lost in email. So, like, when you are receiving something from a band, and of course, like if it's a band that's a little bit more established, they already know, or you're receiving it from a promoter, they already know how to reach out to you. And I know Spencer, when he was there, he told me about like, this is how you do it. This is how you don't do it. Cause I was asking him like, hey, my band wants to play. He's like, okay, well, you need to do this. You need to do that. I know you, but you still have to do it this way. So what are the proper steps if a band wants to play the hi-fi? How do they reach out to you guys and what's appropriate to, I guess, kind of keep their name in the mix?
Yeah. So, I guess I would kind of segment it into like the status of the band. So there are certain bands that are already touring nationally and they have a booking agent. And so those bands usually are getting booked through their booking agencies. And those agents will reach out to us with, a date range of when a certain band's going on tour. And we have a lot of relationships established with various agencies. So those bands, I'll say, like, those are the kind of the bands we're not really referring to. These are more of like the up and coming bands that are trying to get started or trying to expand out of their local city. Um, First of all, like we do have a submission
Mhm.
on our website where you can submit your band to be played, and that goes into a database. And then um, a lot of times, like a support slot is like a foot in the door for us. So, for instance, if you're like sometimes we pick who the support band is going to be, or we suggest to the headliner.
Yeah, like a running list. Like, hey, we know these bands would be a good fit for.
Yeah. So like a lot of times when we book a show and the headliner, they may already tell us like, oh, such and such a band is going to be our support band. So that's what we call carried support. And they may be doing the entire tour with them, or they might just be doing a few of the dates. But they've chosen for us. They always get the choice. But then a lot of the times they will defer to our expertise on the local scene of a band that they think, because they just don't have the time or the wherewithal to figure out who to support their show. They'll be like, can you submit us some local ideas? And so we have a database of bands that, have submitted, and over the years that we've just kind of accumulated all the names and all the names and contact info.
And I've seen you guys post about it too. Like you even say like, hey, if you're a band that wants to be considered for just future stuff, this is also a spot that you can kind of just put your name in.
So we have a submission page on our website. Then being referred by other bands. A lot of times, like bands will, like when we have a local band being booked, they might pull on their buddies from somewhere else, and that's like another good way for us to find out about bands and have an opportunity to see them. Um, and then there's some bands that we just have heard of. They're local bands that we just have heard of and we know about, and so we have an idea of how they will do selling ticket wise. But really, for a band that's starting out, really the biggest thing that can help them is for them to include like ticket history of like, what can we expect? Like, why
Draw.
should we book you? If you're just saying like, hey, we're like Joe Blow and the whatevers, we're from,
That's a good band name. That's a good punk name. Joe Blow and the Whatevers.
we're from BFE, and we're going to be passing through Indy, and we want to play at the Hi-Fi. I mean, that basically tells me not a lot. It's more like, hey, we're so and so. We've played tours with X, Y, and Z actually known bands, so they've actually demonstrated that they're desirable to touring bands to bring them on as support. And like, or tell us like, we've played shows at Black Circle, or we've played shows at various venues, and we can sell this many tickets. That is like one of the biggest things that helps differentiate yourself from all the other myriad of other unsolicited band emails that we get. So or if we've worked with you in the past, that also helps. Like, for instance, like if a band was support on a different show and they want to come back and book a show as a headliner or something like that, that definitely helps that we saw that they were promoting the show, that even when there was support and they were able to bring people in, and like there were people there specifically to see them.
That's
kind
one of the
thing.
hardest obstacles, is a band just to promote their own show, huh? Sometimes there's some bands that
You would think that it's an obvious thing, but it's not always, and it can be very frustrating when especially when it's a band that it's kind of like giving them a big shot, and then they
Sure.
don't like, hello, are you gonna post about the show you're playing here or anything?
Well, that was the big thing. Is like I remember making the promos, and like we would send it out, and I think it was Maggie at the time
Yeah.
was the marketing, and she would be like, she'd send them follow up emails like, "Hey, we made you everything. You literally just had to put it on your thing."
Yeah, and now with and I mean, social media is like, it's huge for promoting shows now, and so like if we're gonna give you all the tools and then you don't actually use them, it's like,
Don't expect
that
us
doesn't
to accept you next time.
it definitely puts a damper on our desire to, bring it back. So,
Yeah, and speaking of social media and the internet, because I feel like now it's like a lot more widely talked about and kind of more opened up. But like I remember when I would start first playing in bands and putting together pages and all that, you see a band, like you get their submission, they've got X thousands of plays here, X thousands of plays there, but then like their Facebook has 100 people that follow them, or they have 100,000 followers and they have like 50 likes on their stuff. Like the things don't match up.
yeah, I mean, even now there are some bands that like are touring nationally that we're booking that have like, several million Spotify monthly listeners, but then the ticket sales are just kind of like
Yeah.
mediocre. You're like, I don't know. It's hard to always like make a correlation between certain social media followings and
Well, especially if it's not
sales, and
consistent.
then vice versa. Sometimes there are people who don't have a big following, but then they're blowing it out on the ticket sales, which is what we prefer.
Yeah, you'd rather have a band that you know is gonna kick
like-
some ass.
Yeah. So, yeah, like as much as we try to predict and like figure things out, there's a certain amount of just risk and uncertainty that we just live with all the time. And, it doesn't help that people are just waiting till later and later to buy tickets. And,
Yeah.
like you get to the week of and we're just biting our nails. And then all of a sudden it's like, 200 tickets.
Yeah, because you have walk-in traffic too, but
Yeah.
and maybe like the pandemic was kind of a weird thing. It made people a little bit more closed off and like, well, why would I go do this when I could just watch it from home? Or
I mean, I think the pandemic has made people a little more wait to the last minute and kind of see how they feel that day.
right.
To decide if they're going to do something or not. So we do see like a lot of the majority of sales for most shows like in the last week, which is making me go grayer even faster.
Right. Something that I thought was super successful, and it was just unfortunately like such like it was like the absolute worst timing, was the Battle of the Bands was awesome. It was it ended in February 2020, like just before
we got it in just under the wire.
Yeah.
So,
but tell us about the experience of that. I mean, I thought it was super cool. The band I was in at the time, we were actually submitted for it. We were supposed to play, but like we just couldn't get our stuff together in terms of our band. But I went and saw the first couple qualifying rounds. It was cool. Like Josh got up there and like told us about how it all worked. It was very like well organized, well planned. Ended up at the Vogue, and we had the Palace at I think you came to the show for the Palace at Feinstein's.
Yeah.
And everybody in there was amazing. But I even asked them, I was like, you guys got the van, everything, and then what'd you do with it? And they said it sat vacant for like 2 years.
Yeah, like the pandemic hit, and it was like, for them, it was pretty unfortunate timing to.
Yeah, they were on such a high. It's just, but talk about like the process from the beginning, like how you guys set that all up.
Yeah, I guess years ago, MOKB had done a Battle of the Bands, or at least once before, and we revived it in 2019. We've looked into redoing it again since then, post pandemic. And there's just a lot of
It's a
pieces.
big undertaking.
It is a big undertaking. Just from, having the calendar availability where we can have like 12 weeks in a row for the finals and the semifinals, or for the quarterfinals and the semifinals.
Yeah.
And with our calendar being like so crazy, like if anything, we would have to, hold dates in like the end of the year, which is kind of when we did it last time.
Yeah.
It was, I think, started in November and went over
into February.
Yeah. So, just the timing is the first big piece, and then having sponsors to provide all of the financial support and the prizes and things like that. That's another big thing. But I believe that they're looking into bringing it back again. Like,
that'd be awesome.
Either late this year or next year, do it again.
Yeah, I felt like that was because kind of coming back to that point of like people from the outside saying Indiana's a hard place to get into. Like I thought like that was a really great step towards like making indie like a like a bigger community, like make it
Yeah.
more involved. Like, here's your chance. Like, because the hi-fi, like, I mean, you guys also bring in local artists, but like it is a venue that like you kind of got to put your time in before you get to the high. Like it's like a bigger step. If you're playing the hi-fi, you're also probably playing some bigger venues too. I mean, it is, like I said, we were talking about, it's like one of the best venues in Indiana, especially for its size too. It's just, it was such a great opportunity. And then of course, like everything just, nope.
Yeah.
The world was like, nope, we're turning off.
Yeah. So I mean, even, for a lot of bands, especially local bands that, this isn't their primary source of income or their only job. It's like most people in local bands are, have a day job.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of like trying to figure out the logistics to be able to also get out on the weekends and do shows and get in front of people. And then, you know, A, finding venues that have availability, and B, where you're actually worth, booking. It's a lot of, pieces to get all the things
Right.
to line up
God forbid
and work.
weather holds up. I mean, there's nothing worse than playing a show when there's a snowstorm. And then like we were in Chicago one time with my other band, and it was us, the other band, and our girlfriends that were there. It was just so sad. And the lady was so nice. She was like, "You guys were great. Come back anytime." But
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
happens.
there's so many circumstances that happen that you just can't avoid.
Yeah, I mean, like, just this weekend alone, we were supposed to have a show last night in the Hi-Fi, and a couple of days prior, the artist was coming from Nashville, and they were having ice storms predicted for
Oh yeah, the whole state's
Thursday, Friday,
shut
Saturday.
down.
And, like, even as far out as a few days ahead, they're like, "Well, we know that there's ice storms," and he was supposed to be traveling up through, I don't know, probably Louisville or
Mhm.
something. And so, like, won't be able to get to that one, and then which makes getting to Indy from there, this whole, like, domino effect. So it's like, let's reschedule. So we rescheduled that,
Yeah, you've been going
to
through it this weekend, haven't you?
yes. And so, but on the bright side from that, we did have our upstairs show that had already sold out with
Nice.
Sarah Grain. So with that freeing up downstairs, we actually moved it downstairs, and she was able to just keep selling more tickets, and it was great last night. So that was like a nice making lemonade out of lemons
That's
situation.
Yeah, the biggest thing I've learned with working with music, recording music, anything is just everything's gonna fall apart every time. Like I showed up, actually that JD Iker show, I showed up with all my cameras and none of my lenses. And it was 30 minutes to showtime. I live 45 minutes one way away. And I walked up to him, and I usually don't get nervous or like scared, but I walked to him, I was like, and he already paid me like in full.
Oh,
And I know JD. Like JD and
yeah.
I are good buddies. I've filmed him plenty of times. And I was like, I am an idiot. I brought everything that I needed, but then things I didn't. I was like, either I can give you a full refund, or I have a phone and I got a GoPro. And
Yeah.
he grabbed my shoulder, and JD,
Yeah.
in JD fashion, he said, I hired you, not your cameras.
Oh,
And I was like,
yeah.
you are so corny, but I will do it. But
Yeah.
it made me feel good, because I mean, like I've had my cameras fall and break. I've had like, I
Yeah.
couldn't make it there with the car. I mean, and everything happens. But that's the thing, is if you're going to work in that field, you have to be an opportunist and be like, well, we at least have this, and that.
I mean, I think every band learns to just scramble when things happen, and things just happen. So, like we were talking about, tonight's band had vehicle issues, and um, it's getting moved to tomorrow instead.
Yeah.
So,
The show still goes on.
yeah. So at some point or another. So, we just make things work as much as we can. I got really, really good at canceling and rescheduling shows during the pandemic.
Pro
Uh,
level.
yeah. And so, we've been through it, and like it's just more of a matter of like, it's kind of like soldiering on. So, but we have a lot of other good stuff coming, and so it's like you can't dwell on anything for too long, because there's always the things coming after it that you have to, take care of. So
Yeah. It's not, all the other shows aren't stopping if one
no,
show
nothing ever
falls through.
stops ever.
Yeah.
So it's like the ocean. It's like, just because you get knocked down by one wave, you just got to get up and surf the rest of it.
So when you're dealing with a stressful situation, like, I mean, and granted, they probably happen almost every day. How do you find the way to kind of get yourself back on the mental, or maybe you don't, but I guess how would you, when you deal with something like that, how do you kind of keep calm, cool, collected? What are your mechanisms to kind of get through it?
Um, I mean, I think that one of my keys to my success is in general, like throughout all my career, is that I tend to have a very stoic roll with the go with the flow kind of attitude for everything. So when things like kind of go sideways, it's more of a, just okay, well, here's what we're gonna do now, and just kind of do what you got to do. It doesn't. It takes a lot for me to get really, really like flustered and like. I think I might have only cried about something like once or twice because it was like things are really going backwards. Um, we've had some stressful times with when we were doing Pride Festival where just tech issues when you have like, 30,000 people in a space and like, none of the cell service is
Sure.
working and then you can't sell people drinks and everybody gets mad.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
the lines are really long, it's like,
It always seems like during
so
Pride Week, there's like a torrential storm that comes through. Like I remember the year I did it, it was historic rainfall, and then they were concerned because of all the electricity and all that, and like gates got broken down. But as soon as the rain stopped, they all just ran back. Everybody was like gross and muddy, and like everything was just destroyed. But they just kept going.
yeah, it seems like we've had rain a few times like every year. Every year we learn something that makes the logistics of the following year a little better and easier. And so I think we're finally getting to a good place where like we kind of just have it figured out. But then there's always the things you just can't plan for, like the weather or like, just the cell tower not working or something like that. So, but yeah, I mean, I think I tend to just kind of roll with roll with the punches as much as I can, just because kind of have the attitude like having a temper tantrum really isn't gonna contribute anything to anything and make anything better. So it's like well, I can just put my big girl pants on and soldier on. So I think that helps. You know, with I think that helps also kind of signal to everybody else is like well, let's just get on with it and do what we can.
Cool.
So
And to close everything out, everything rooted from being a big music fan, and the questionnaire we send out, the last thing you said is always go to the show, which I
yeah,
always feel like even for me, I'm like, I like people invite me to stuff, and I'm like, I really want to, but I have a full day of work. I make excuses in my head. I'm like, this is why I can't go. I have a dog at home. I live far away, but I've seen you like anytime I'm doing anything, you just happen to pop up like at every show. So like, you work shows all the time. You're always around it. What keeps you motivated to continue to follow? I mean, obviously you love music. It,
yeah. I mean, I think that's the main thing is like I I love live music. I have a little bit of FOMO that so I might have been in the office all day and then I'm tired and I'm like maybe I'll just go home, but you're always worried that there's going to be some super cool moment that I'm going to miss. And it's like, well, I could just chill here and sit in the back and watch it. And usually I'm glad I did. So, um, yeah, I just like to be in the room when it happens, to
yeah.
quote Hamilton.
Plus, yeah, and the more you're out in that field, the more connections you get, the more people, the more friendships you build, the more if
Yeah. I
then you also
mean,
know the band. Like you might see a band that you didn't know of that played X venue, and then oh, they'd be awesome for the hi-fi for this show.
yeah. And I mean, actually, there are a lot of cases where Um, I actually have met the bands before, and so like we're like acquaintances. I wouldn't say we're like all best friends or anything, but I'm acquainted with a lot of them, and so like I do like to kind of have a little bit of FaceTime with them, so they know that. I guess it does. From what I hear, there are a lot of other promoters and whatnot where they're booking the shows, but like the bands have no idea who these people
Sure.
are. They've just been an email, but I've heard from various agents and bands that it's like, oh, it's nice that you're actually at the show.
Well, awesome.
So it's nice.
Well, cool. Well, thank you for taking time out of your busy
Yeah, thanks
day
for inviting me.
Come hang out. I wish Ben could have been here. I know he was excited about it, but we don't want to get you sick, so
No, that's yeah, no.
totally fine. We're in too tight of a space to
Yeah.
justify it. We'd have to put him in his own bubble.
Yeah.
But thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
Engine Room Recording Company, located in Broderpool Village just north of downtown Indianapolis, specializes in making your projects go. Podcasters, bands, audiobookers, rappers, singers, songwriters, and everyone in between, the Engine Room Recording Company has the experience, the engineers, the equipment, and the environment to fuel your projects. For more information on their services, creatives they've worked beside, and gear they use, visit them today at engineroomrecordingcompany.com and be sure to follow them on Instagram at Engine Room Recording Co.